Hi everybody, this is Mrs. Mancuso and I wanted to go through a Regents exam with you. In this video I will go through all the multiple choice, and then in a separate video I will go through all the constructed response. So if at any point you need to stop it, just mark the time period so that you can come back to it, because this is not one of the quick 5-minute videos. All right, I have a calculator ready, I have my reference table ready, and I have some scrap paper. So the first one, which change occurs when an atom in an excited state returns to ground? So if this is my atom and I have an excited one and it's going back, it's going to release energy. So that means that energy is emitted. Next one, the valence electrons in an atom of phosphorus in the ground state are all found in. So I go to my reference table, I look up phosphorus, and phosphorus is 285. So 5 are the valence electrons and they are in the third shell. I could also look here, it's in period 3, so that tells me it's in the third shell. Next one, which two elements have the most similar chemical properties? I am looking for two that are in the same group because they have the same number of valence electrons, and that means they would have the same properties. So I go over here, beryllium and magnesium. There we go, first choice. If you look at the other ones, hydrogen and helium aren't in the same. Phosphorus and sulfur aren't in the same. Potassium and strontium are in the same. So I got to pick two that are in the same group. Next one, which phrase describes a compound that consists of two elements? A compound. So a compound is not a mixture, not a mixture. A substance in which the elements are chemically combined in a variable proportion, not variable. Substance in which the elements are combined in a fixed proportion, yes, that is a compound. So for example, H2O, you always have 2 hydrogen atoms with 1 oxygen. That's what we call a fixed proportion. All right, next one. The formula mass of a compound is so formula mass is gram formula mass. So the sum of the atomic masses of its atoms, yes. The sum of the atomic numbers, no. And it's not a product. Number 6. The arrangement of the elements from left to right in period 4 is based on. So the arrangement in the periodic table, always based on atomic number. Number 7, which diatomic molecule is formed when 2 atoms share 6 electrons? All right, a hydrogen and a hydrogen just share 2 electrons, so it's not that. Oxygen, you remember, has a double bond like that, so 1, 2, 3, 4, so it's not that. Fluorine just has a single bond, so that's 2 electrons, so that leaves us with nitrogen. I actually want to show you how you do that though. So over here, I draw a nitrogen and I go look up the valence electrons. And nitrogen has 5. So when I do the 5 dots, it goes like this, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then another nitrogen would be here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then I like to do what's called looping the lonelies. These two will come together, these two will come together, these two will come together. That's 3 pairs of electrons, so that's a triple bond. So that's what the Lewis dot diagram of N2 would look like. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 shared electrons between them. So N2 is my answer. All right, which formula represents a polar molecule? So polar is asymmetrical. O2, very symmetrical, very balanced. CO2, very symmetrical, very balanced. N with 3 H's. The 3 tells you right away this is going to be our answer. So if I have 3, that is that's asymmetrical. So there's my choice. And a C with 4 H's would be very balanced, very symmetrical. Remember, it's asking me for the molecule, not the bond. So that's why I draw it out. Number 9. Which element is least likely to undergo a chemical reaction? If something is not likely to undergo a chemical reaction in an element, I'm going to pick a noble gas. So I look at these choices and I can go over here to my reference table and see which one is a noble gas, and it's neon. It's unreactive because it has 8 valence electrons. Which element has a melting point higher than rhenium? All right, this is just a straight reference table question. So, got to grab my reference table. I have no idea what rhenium's melting point is. I don't know any of the elements' melting points because you can just look them up. So I want to find rhenium. Let's see, maybe it's number 75. Yeah, number 75 is rhenium. So I go over here, its melting point is 3458. So I'm going to write 3458 right here. And then I'm going to look up these others. All right, iridium is 2719, so that's not higher. Osmium is 3306, that's not higher. Tantalum. There it is, 3290. Nope. Tungsten, 3695. There we go. So just a reference table question where you got to look it up. Which property can be defined as the ability of a substance to be hammered into thin sheets? That's one of the properties of metals. It's called the malleability. Which list of elements consists of a metal, metalloid, and noble gas? So I want to find a left side loser, that's a metal, so left of the staircase. Metalloid means it's right around the staircase, and a noble gas is a group 18. So I go over here. The first one says aluminum. There's Al, that's a metal. Sulfur, that's a nonmetal. Nope, it doesn't want me to get a nonmetal without a noble gas, so not that one. All right, magnesium, yes, that's a metal. Sodium, nope, that's another metal. All right, sodium, yes. Silicon, metalloid, yes. Argon, yes. Okay, there's my choice. So that one had a metal, a metalloid, and a noble gas. All right, on to the next page. All right, which sample of matter has a crystal structure? In order to be a crystal, it has to be a solid. So there's my choice. Liquids and gases can't be a crystal. All right, 1 mole of liquid water and 1 mole of solid water have different. So they are definitely going to have different properties because they are in different states of matter. All right, so they're going to have the same mass. You just add up 2 H's and an O. They're going to have the same formulas and same gram formula masses. Which substance cannot be broken down by chemical change? If you cannot break it down, it's got to be an element. So gold is the element of these choices. 16, which statement describes particles of an ideal gas? So gas particles, I always want to think spread out when I think about ideal gases. They spread out really well. Gas particles are separated by distances smaller than the size of the particles. Well, the particles are small, so if they're separated by distances smaller, that would mean they're really close. Can't be that one. Gas particles do not transfer energy to each other when they collide. There is a little bit of transfer of energy when molecules collide, when they bump into each other. Gas particles have no attractive forces. There we go. We don't really want to have, to be ideal, we have no attractions between them, which is why they spread out so far. And they don't move in predictable circular motion. They move in constant straight line motion. 17, which expression could represent the concentration of a solution? So which one tells me how concentrated it is? Grams, milliliters, and moles are all just units of measure, but they're individual things. Molarity is how many solutes per liter. So if I go over here, this concentration right here, concentration, molarity, moles of solute per liter of solution. So it tells me how much I have per liter. So that's concentration. Which form of energy is associated with the random motion of particles? So random motion always makes me think kinetic energy. So thermal is the one that considers kinetic energy. Which change is most likely to occur when a molecule of H2 and I2 collide with proper orientation and sufficient energy? When they collide, they have a sufficient collision that they can have a chemical reaction. So I can first cross off physical, and it's going to be a chemical change, and it's going to form a compound. 20. Which changes can reach dynamic equilibrium? So when you have dynamic equilibrium, it means you have a reaction like this. So nuclear changes they don't usually go back and forth in a way like that. You don't have forward and reverse reactions for nuclear reactions, so that's not our choice. Chemical changes do. Got to get rid of this nuclear again. But you could also have physical changes. You could go back and forth between H2O liquid and H2O gas, or you could actually form water back and forth. So we want both chemical and physical. What occurs when a reaction reaches equilibrium? So the rates are equal and the concentrations are constant. I always think about what I want before I choose, before I look at the answer choices. So the concentration increases, no. Concentration of products increase, no. The rate of the forward reaction is equal to the rate of the reverse. There we go. Rates are equal. In terms of potential energy, which expression defines the heat of the reaction? All right, delta H is equal to the product's energy minus the reactant's energy. So P minus R. There it is. Potential energy of the products minus potential energy of the reactants. So if I have a reaction, my delta H is this to this. The difference between where I end and where I start, that's my delta H. And this value is higher, so this one is endothermic. It would be a positive delta H. 23, systems in nature tend to undergo. So I always say, think of like you at the end of the day. You definitely have lower energy, and you definitely have more disorder, so higher entropy. What occurs when Cr plus 3 ions are reduced? So reduction is gaining. So I want to gain electrons, and I can think of oil rig. The oil goes up and the rig goes down. So electrons are lost? No. Electrons are gained, and the oxidation number decreases. There we go. Where do reduction and oxidation occur in an electrolytic cell? So in any cell, we always have an ox and red cat. So oxidation happens at the anode, and reduction at the cathode. There it is. Which compound is an electrolyte? So to be an electrolyte means that you can conduct electricity. So I'm going to look for an acid, a base, or an aqueous salt. Those are the things that can conduct electricity. So no, 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 there's an acid. And if I'm not sure, I can always go to table K and table L. They list out my acids and my bases. And so there's H3PO4 under the acids. When the hydronium ion concentration of an aqueous solution is increased by a factor of 10, the pH of the value. So if you have more H3O+, that means you have more H pluses. That means you're going to go down the pH scale by 1. So for example, a pH of 4 versus a pH of 3, there's 10 times more H pluses in a pH of 3 than there is a pH of 4. All right, the stability of isotopes is related to the ratio of which particles in the atoms. So larger nuclei tend to be unstable, and it's because of the neutrons and protons in the nucleus. Which radioisotope has the fastest rate of decay? So I need to go to table N, and I need to look these up. Carbon-14 is 5,715 years. That's not fast. 37